Hello and welcome to Omni Deep Dive. We explore any topic from finance and technology to literature and science. Sit back, focus, and get ready to dive deep.
If there's one feeling that just about everyone shares these days, it's that feeling of being constantly interrupted. You sit down to do one thing, write a report, maybe read a book, even just try to relax, and within minutes, ping, an alert flashes.
Or that ghost vibration, the dreaded phantom buzz in your pocket.
Exactly. It is relentless. We are, I think it's safe to say, living in an attention crisis.
It's completely exhausting. And the thing is, we have to realize this whole environment is by design. It's all running on the rules of what the economist Herbert Simon famously called the attention economy.
Okay, so break that framework down for us. What does that actually mean for you listening?
Well, the idea is actually pretty simple, but it's profound. We live in a world that is incredibly rich with information. So information itself, that's not the scarce resource anymore.
Right.
What's become scarce, the real premium, the thing everyone's fighting for, is human attention. Every single platform, every app, every business is competing to capture and then monetize that one resource.
So our mission today is to cut right through all that noise. We're basically giving you a shortcut. First, we're going to diagnose exactly why our brains are so vulnerable to all these engineered distractions.
And then second, we're going to explore actionable, evidence-based solutions to help you reclaim some genuine cognitive control.
We want to help you move from being a passive consumer of technology to an active, intentional steward of your own focus.
Exactly. So let's start with the diagnosis. The baseline state for millions of people today is something called continuous partial attention.
That sounds very scientific. What does it actually feel like?
It's that state where you're never fully on and you're never fully off. You just kind of exist in this high alert mode, always ready for an interruption.
So like if you're folding laundry, you've got 10% of your brain just waiting for your phone to buzz.
Precisely. Or you're in a meeting, but you're subconsciously just scanning, waiting for the next input. You're always alert, but you're never, ever deeply focused.
And when we try to find the source of this mental fatigue, where does the research actually point?
Well, users often point their fingers squarely at social media apps, the usual suspects.
The low-hanging fruit.
Right. But the problem is actually far more insidious. We really have to talk about something called the mere presence effect.
Wait, I've heard about this, and it is shocking. This is the idea that just having your phone physically near you, even if you're not using it, messes with your brain.
That's it, precisely. There was a critical piece of research from the University of Texas at Austin, and it showed that the sheer proximity of your smartphone,
even if it's off, face down,
and silent, it measurably reduces your available cognitive capacity.
So just having my phone sitting on the corner of my desk is literally taking up brain space. Why is that? Is it a FOMO thing or something deeper?
It creates a real cognitive brain drain. And it's not really FOMO, it's your executive control system, the part of your brain for high-level thinking, having to work overtime.
To do what?
The effort it takes to successfully ignore the phone, to suppress that urge to check it, that consumes the exact neural resources you need for deep thinking or for problem solving. You are spending mental energy trying not to use it.
And that energy can't be used for the actual task at hand. That's so important to really let sink in. It isn't just a failure of willpower. The environment itself is draining our capacity.
And that cognitive cost is made even worse by what researcher Sophie Leroy calls attention residue.
Attention residue, okay.
Look, think of it like this. When you switch tasks, say you're writing a really important memo and you quickly glance at a 2-line email, a residue of your attention gets stuck on that email.
So even when you turn back to the memo,
your performance is worse because a part of your mind is still processing that email you just skimmed, maybe thinking about a reply or worrying about what it said.
So if I check a text while I'm trying to work on a difficult budget, I'm not just losing 30 seconds, I'm carrying the mental baggage of that text with me, and it reduces my ability to solve the budget problem.
Exactly. You are never fully present in that high-stakes task because you didn't give your brain the time to fully disengage from the low-stakes one.
Which, I guess, brings us to the neurobiology. If the environment is so draining, why do we keep doing it? Why do we compulsively seek out these distractions?
That's the classic dopamine loop. Tech platforms are masters of what's called intermittent variable rewards. It's designed to be exactly like a slot machine.
The idea that you might get a reward, but you might not.
Right. The like, the message, that interesting post. It isn't guaranteed when you pull to refresh. It is the uncertainty that drives the whole loop.
And that anticipation, that will I get something good this time feeling, is what spikes the dopamine. Which you should say is not the pleasure chemical, it's the neurotransmitter of seeking.
You're spot on. It's a habit-forming mechanism driving compulsive behavior. The platforms are just perfectly optimized to hijack our seeking circuits. And you see a real consequence of this. Research has causally linked heavy mobile use to a reduced ability to delay gratification.
So your brain gets used to those instant hits, and it makes you more likely to take a smaller, immediate reward instead of working for a bigger one later.
Yes. And before we go any deeper into these compulsive patterns, we need to pause for a second and just add a crucial note here.
Right. We're discussing these things through the lens of productivity and behavioral science. It is really important for you to distinguish between digital overload, that's the fatigue from too much information, and true digital addiction.
Digital addiction involves compulsive use, despite knowing there are negative consequences, and it often impacts your health or your relationships. We want to be very clear. We are not medical professionals or mental health experts.
If you or someone you know is struggling with compulsive technology use that seriously impacts daily life, please seek professional therapy or medical advice. This discussion is for educational purposes, not a substitute for clinical care.
That distinction is critical. Okay, so with that said, let's look at the absolute pinnacle of design for compulsive use. Short-form video.
TikTok, Reels, Shorts. This is where frictionless overuse has really been perfected.
Oh, absolutely. These platforms strategically combine extremely short videos with hyper-personalization, seamless navigation, and just constant sensory stimulation.
The design is all about removing decision points.
100%. The goal is an immersive, frictionless experience that just suppresses your ability to reflect or make a decision. You don't choose the next video, the algorithm just serves it up. It removes any pause for thought.
And the result of that kind of passive consumption is what researchers call temporal dissociation.
You completely lose track of time, you look up, and an hour has just vanished. Because you weren't required to take any intentional action to break that flow.
It's an incredibly powerful trap, and it's engineered by some brilliant people.
It is. But the good news is, understanding how the trap is built gives us the map to get out of it. The diagnosis is done. Now let's get into the cure.
Okay, so if the problem is a frictionless design, the core of the solution has to be adding intentional friction back in.
Yes. We have to introduce these small, deliberate interventions, these little nudges that disrupt those automatic patterns we've all built. We have to weaponize our own environment.
Let's start with a really simple digital one, Grayscale Mode. Just switch your phone's display to black and white.
This is so much more than just an aesthetic choice. This one simple act removes those bright red notification bubbles, those vibrant app icons. It makes the device less chemically rewarding to your brain.
It just becomes less appetizing, less likely to trigger that dopamine hit.
Exactly. And then you can take that same idea of friction into the physical world with something called the phone Foyer method.
I love this one.
It's brilliant in its simplicity. You create a physical charging station, maybe near your front door, a foyer, and that is where phones live during off hours.
They don't come to the dinner table. They definitely don't come into the bedroom.
Right. You are reintroducing physical boundaries where technology has just completely eroded them. You decide where technology belongs.
But one of the most, I think, optimistic pieces of data comes from testing interventions inside the apps themselves. We have to talk about that study from Tilburg and Turku universities.
Yes. That study tested these embedded digital warnings, little pop-ups, right in the middle of a short-form video stream. They had a control group, a group with a simple timer warning, and a third group with a timer plus a motivational prompt.
And the results were stark, right?
Incredibly so. Both of the warning types significantly restored the user's feeling of control and dramatically reduced their compulsive urges compared to the group with no warnings.
People actually reported they were less likely to lose track of time or watch longer than they meant to.
And this leads to the crucial insight. It wasn't really the specific content of the message that mattered most.
It was just the interruption itself.
Exactly. The mere presence of that warning. It acted as an external prompt. It was highly effective at disrupting the flow and restoring awareness because it forced a decision, do I click resume or not?
And that tiny decision point brings your conscious mind back online.
And what's really interesting is that the participants found these warnings highly acceptable. They even said they were helpful. It kind of challenges the idea that users always want a totally frictionless experience.
So beyond changing our environment, we also need some cognitive tools. What do we do in the moment when that urge to check just hits?
That's where you surf the urge. It's a mindfulness technique.
Okay, how does that work?
When that impulse to check your device arises, you pause. You acknowledge the physical feeling of discomfort, that little bit of anxiety, and you just sit with it for 30 seconds.
And the idea is that the feeling, like a wave, will peak and then it'll just crash.
It does. And you realize the urge is temporary and you can get back to your work without giving in.
We also can't forget the physical side of this, the 20-20-20 rule.
Yes, so important for digital eye strain and mental fatigue. Every 20 minutes, you look at something 20 feet away for 20 seconds. It's a tiny physical break that resets your visual system and gives your attention a micro break.
And for really focused work, you have to use what are called commitment devices.
These are apps or even hardware that will hard block access to your most distracting sites during your deep work blocks. You're basically outsourcing your willpower to software.
This all kind of leads to a bigger, almost philosophical debate, doesn't it? Is this battle won through individual willpower or through systemic changes?
That's the core question. You have the digital minimalism advocates who focus intensely on personal responsibility, on self-imposed rules.
And on the other side, you have humane technologists who argue that, look, individual willpower is just no match for an AI that's optimized to capture billions of human brains. They put the accountability on the designers.
And that ties right into the myth of the digital detox.
Ah, yes, the weekend offline.
It sounds great, but it often just leads to a binge purge cycle.
Yeah.
You treat tech like a toxin, you get rid of it, and then you immediately relapse.
So what's the alternative?
A more sustainable sort of nutritional approach.
Yeah.
You manage it like a healthy lifelong diet, not a crash diet you can't maintain.
But this whole conversation has to move beyond just personal habits, especially now, with remote work making the workplace so intensely always on.
The digital leash has gotten so much shorter. Which brings us to a really powerful systemic solution. The policy response known as the right to disconnect, R2D.
This is where governments are actually stepping in.
Yes. Countries like Belgium, France, Spain, they've already implemented robust R2D policies. The whole point is to protect workers from that unspoken expectation that you have to respond to emails and messages outside of your official working hours.
And how do these policies actually work? Is it just a memo?
No, they're much more structured. Some policies mandate that company servers automatically delete or hold emails sent after hours until the next morning. It creates a hard technical boundary, not just a suggestion.
So it's not on the employee to ignore the notification just isn't there.
Exactly. And the data on the impact is undeniable. Workers in companies with an R2D policy reported significantly better work-life balance. We're talking 92% satisfaction versus only 80% for those without one.
That's a huge difference.
Confirms that the design of the environment, whether it's corporate or technological, has to share the responsibility for our well-being. These policies also lead to fewer unpaid hours and more autonomy for workers. It shifts the burden.
So, to sort of synthesize our whole deep dive here, fighting the attention crisis isn't about becoming a Luddite and rejecting technology. It's about intentionality.
It's about using friction, these cognitive tools, and systemic boundaries to interrupt those powerful, engineered reward loops. And the key finding really is that we have proof that things like embedded digital warnings work and users find them acceptable.
Which should empower us to demand better from our platforms.
Absolutely.
Looking ahead, this skill, the ability to manage your own attention, it seems like it's only going to become more critical, more valuable. Why is that?
Well, as technology gets even more immersive, think about VR and AR, and as personalized AI gets even better at predicting and manipulating our behavior, the ability to intentionally disengage will probably transform from just a key skill into a primary indicator of professional success.
So in a world totally saturated with digital noise,
the capacity for sustained deep focus may very well become a genuine luxury good. So the question for you is, what steps are you going to take today to secure that luxury for yourself?
That wraps up this Omni Deep Dive episode. Thank you for listening. If you found value in today's deep dive, please click like and subscribe to our channel. Take care.